Yes, please. Okay, a massive round of applause, please. It's Anna Rodrigues.
Right. So happy to be here. This is actually my 6th all-day Hey. I only missed 2 of them. And this is my 2nd time on the stage. I did a lightning talk in 2019, I believe. But yeah, super happy to be here. My name is Anna. Oh gosh, it is huge. I work as a front-end developer at Haktar. We are a tech for good agency. I spend most of my free time on my blog, and I participate in the indie web community. So if you want to talk about it, come find me afterwards. And for this talk, I must mention that I do not represent any browser vendor, just vibing here. I've done this talk 4 times before, and nobody has invited me to go karaoke afterwards. And so I still haven't been since before the pandemic, shocking. Actually, now that I think about it, there may be a reason why. But the only reason why this talk even popped into my head is because I'm a really big fan of the Erasmus. Anyone here as well? Please. Oh, okay. Anyways, I'm not a stan, I'm just a really, really big fan. It's not a happy hardcore thing type of music. And speaking of Eurovision as well, they were in Eurovision in 2022, which means that Finland got robbed 2 years in a row. That's just an opinion. Because of that, I had a problem that I needed to fix. So whenever I go karaoke, there's only one song from the Erasmus available. It's always In the Shadows, and it's not my favorite. It's an incredible bop, top tier song, but I wondered if I could build something. And then my head started thinking like, okay, so what if we had more than just lyrics on a screen? What if we could gamify the experience? What if we could match what you're saying to the lyrics? Because I know I would win, just like, big fan. So I set myself on an adventure to create my perfect karaoke experience. And spoiler alert, it just didn't go as well as I imagined. But it's about the adventure, so here we go. So I searched for speech to text, and I realized that the results in the first page were all from private companies, startups that sell this behavior as a service. You have to pay for it. And we know that there's a browser native speech recognition, and it's free. So I was like, I'm not spending money on this. I'm going to build this for free. So let's talk about the Web Speech API. In particular, the speech recognition. So the speech recognition is split into 2. The Web Speech API is split into 2. The speech recognition and the speech synthesis. And yes, it's quite obvious how I'm going to be using the speech recognition, but actually one of the core ideas for it was not for karaoke, but it was to enable developers to use the speech recognition as an input for forms, continuous dictation, and control. In fact, there's a very, very, very interesting old draft of how they envisioned this API to work in input fields. So what you'll see here has not been implemented, but it just gives you an idea of what they were thinking back then. But nowadays, you can actually see that behavior implemented in, for example, in the Google Translate service, where you'll have a little microphone at the bottom of your input field. You can press, speak into it, it'll pick up what you said, you can stop it, and that's the behavior that was originally imagined for this API. That's great, right? I was excited. So what's the browser support? It originally said that, according to MDN, it's not really available in Firefox. And in other browsers, it's been implemented, but you may need to use the vendor prefix or a different name. And I was like, okay, that's not too bad. Okay, it's not working in Firefox. There's more, right? But this is the reality. It actually, just because it is implemented, it doesn't mean that it actually works. So I was like, okay, why? MDN gave me a clue. On some browsers like Chrome, using speech recognition on a web page involves a web-based recognition service. Your audio is sent to a web service for recognition processing, so it won't work offline. And yes, I do not understand the magic that happens in the background when processing audio, but for most browsers, the Web Speech API does not work offline and requires a web server. It also needs access to a lot of data to train on, so browser vendors that don't belong to massive corporations don't have the necessary infrastructure or access to the data to train on. So actually, when the other browsers say, I require a web server to work, what they mean is that browsers that use Chromium don't necessarily have access to the Google transcription service. It's a paid service from Google, which Chrome gets to use for free. So I was like, okay, so my options have been reduced even more. All right, well, we still have Safari. When you try this out in Safari, you get this very interesting pop-up. It says, Safari would like to access the speech recognition. The speech data from this app will be sent to Apple to process your requests. This will also help Apple improve its speech recognition technology. Fine, okay, fair enough. Thank you for telling me. And off we go. It doesn't really behave exactly the same as it does on Google Chrome. So when you write code for it, you have to adapt to both scenarios, which can be a bit frustrating. But going back to Firefox, unfortunately, I was not able to be in touch with anyone who is working on this right now, but I was pointed to a very enlightening discussion where the team discusses their concerns with privacy and implementation. So if you want to have a look at why browsers may not be implementing this, this is quite an interesting thread. There's other browsers like Brave who have deliberately disabled the Web Speech API because they do not believe, one, they don't want to pay to Google to be able to use that. Second, they don't believe that any data sent by their users should be sent to Google. There's a lot of opinions in this. Fair to them. As I experimented more and more, I found even more quirks. Lots of snakes and ladders and things like that, to be honest. You can't feed streams into this API. It works with your microphone only. Okay, fine, that's my goal, I want that. It's for karaoke, I get it. Safari on mobile won't allow speech recognition API once you install it as a PWA, which we know recently there has been lots going on around that area. And mobiles may emit a notification sound of when the microphone goes on and off, which can be a slightly annoying behavior. All right. But let's see it in action. Or like Tina Belcher from Bob's Burger will say, let's make this kitty purr. Right, so let me exit and go to a browser. I'm going to use Chrome for obvious reasons. I'll drag you in, and let's ease in by something that was not built by me, so that if it fails, it's not my fault. Basically, like I said before, the Web Speech API is split into two, the speech recognition and the speech synthesis. So let's have a look what would happen if you were to go on a very, very random website. There you go, just random, doesn't really matter. You could find a little post, whatever it is, and you're just cooking, you're doing things, you're just busy, and you just want to listen to your blog post instead of reading. So somebody has built a fun.
Share that I am one of the speakers for this year's All Day.
So somebody has built a fun bookmarklet that does this for you instead of having to buy apps, instead of paying for extensions, instead of doing things like that with just JavaScript. This person implemented the speech synthesis where you can actually pick the language as well, and it'll read things for you. As we know, speech synthesis has a very, very robotic voice. It is what it is. But somebody has actually done this for fun. Okay, just...
I'm excited to share that I am one of the speakers for this year's All Day Hey. I first attended All Day Hey in 2000.
Right, don't spend money on these things. Your browser does it for you. So, is this big enough? Yes, it is. So let me just mirror it for myself so that I can, because I'm struggling to see it from here. That's one way to go. Right. Here's what else we can do. So, the other thing we can do is if we close, oh gosh, the search of shame. Let's go back to this random website once again. And imagine that you just like landed on a random website and you have thoughts and opinions and you just want to, you feel like your brain is moving faster than your fingers. And you can just like then, instead of, again, paying for a service to do this, you just like have a little bookmarklet that captures everything you're saying, jot down your thoughts. I sound like a salesperson, but it's okay. You can just talk and be like, wow, what a fun website. Such a nice website. It's just a coincidence. And once you're done, you can copy paste to your favorite editing program and just like move on from there. So that's a fun thing to add on your browser, just like as a little go-to tool. Great, that worked. Still going. Here comes the trickier bit. So I have a proof of concept. I'm like, okay, so, where am I? So I have a way to capture what I'm saying and put it in my doc, which means I can now manipulate it. Great, let's try this one more time. So let's imagine that you're cooking. Everybody here, we've been on a food theme. Let's imagine you're like making a cake and you suddenly got your hands full of dough, pizza dough, and you just want to have a look at your laptop or your iPad or whatever tablet you're using, and you just want to like navigate in the page. If this doesn't work, I'll cry. Can you take me to the instructions, please? Ooh, you don't have to say please, but I feel like it's polite. Just show me the ingredients again. Great. Can you scroll down to show everyone my cat? Scroll down. Oh, yes, down. Yes, that was the word. Yeah, she's great, isn't she? Yeah. So yeah, you can have a little like navigation bit. Scroll up, and it should do the stuff you want. Right. But we're not here for a recipe, are we? Unfortunately, we are here for to see karaoke. So yeah. So unfortunately, we have to test this, right? Here we are. Right. I had a small proof of concept. If I say things, it does what I want. So let's give this a go. Let's build a karaoke machine. Let's switch the theme. I've decided to add the typical themes you see on your local bar. You have your karaoke, you have some flamingos, you have the classic ocean view. We have just a simple gradient. And yeah, I'm going to first try this out by reading it. Because unfortunately, I was not able to use a song from the Erasmus because I don't want to be sued. I had budget to buy the royalties for an instrumental song from a nursery rhyme, which does not have copyrights and royalties all on it. So let's read the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and see if it picks up what I'm saying and matches to the lyrics. I hope the volume is not too loud, but we may have to adjust the volume as we go. So let's give this a go. Let's just read it out. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Right. It has picked up what I'm saying. It heard that I said a few words, and luckily I've been nailing the lyrics. And when it does not pick up what I've said, sometimes the microphone just doesn't, it didn't mark it as correct or incorrect. But I didn't think this was completely fair. I was like, okay, so what if I just like, after a few drinks, you just like confuse the lyrics a little bit and you just say one word instead of the other or different order. Let me see if I can make it match. Just to get a little points, you deserve them. You're just doing so much stage performance that you deserve a little points on singing. So right. So I'm going to deliberately say the lyrics incorrectly, and they may sound weird, but it's generally the words that come to my head in the moment. Twinkle, twinkle, little cat, how I wonder, are you up above the dog so high? Like something. Twinkle, twinkle, little dog. How well, yeah, it is what it is. Right, not terrible. Right, you got a few rights, a few wrongs, that's okay. But I was just reading it peacefully. So you don't read lyrics in karaoke, unless you're rapping, I guess, maybe. So this means that if I want to test it out loud as well, for its intended purpose, it may mean that I need to just at least sing because some words, because some words sound odd together when it doesn't have a break. Now, I've tested this so many times that Google may have actually learned what I was doing. So it might just actually pick it up correctly. But in the beginning, it didn't. But the good news is that we're going to the pub really soon, and we can all drink and forget about this, because I will. So I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm really sorry. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Right. Right. But it happened. The moment you sing quite a few words sort of connected without a break, it doesn't cope with it as well as I wish it would. This one happens to me quite often. It may be my accent, it may be the way I say things, but it does give me some points. It tries its best. And I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. Right. Let me just have a look. Yeah, that's it. Let's go back to our slides. Right, so how did this happen? It's not very sophisticated, but in the end of the day, you don't have a lot of design skills because it'll always look better than whatever your pub has available. You have your buttons. I have a hidden div with my real-time transcription because I'm nosy. You load your audio, you load your lyrics and your JavaScript. And we'll add some gradients or whatever, and it looks like this. And then this is the important bit. You just need to initiate your speech recognition. You'll ask to show the interim results and set English, Great British as a language. And append it to your doc. I know it's a big wall of text, but it just finds the div, picks up the result from the API, and you have to map through because it comes in deep arrays, and just add it to your document. And this is a quite fun quirk. So I figured that the browsers must think when I say the browsers, I'm obviously talking about Chrome, but they must think like, oh, I'm not giving them this for free all the time, constantly. So after a while, just turn it off. Let's not waste energy and money on this. But you can force it to start again. So once it stops, you start again. And that's a trick I learned, people I figure out on the internet, and through GitHub comments, they will be like, no, you just do that. It's quite fun. Which means that if you are on a mobile phone, you'll hear the notification sound of the microphone going on and off quite frequently. It's a frustrating experience. Well, we added our lyrics similar to subtitles would do. So the first line of the song starts around 5 seconds, it ends at 11.2 seconds. And what was the logic? It's not very fancy. It's just when the speech recognition is initiated, the song will also start. We'll check if the current line falls between the start and the end of that lyric line. If yes, let's add a class showing that it is the current lyric line, which translates into something like this, which is just, I've trimmed quite a lot of code that doesn't really matter. So once we have the time update from the song playing, we'll check what second we're in, and if it matches that logic that we thought about, we'll just add a CSS class. The same the other way around. If the current time is bigger than the end time of a lyric line, add a class that marks that as in the past. And once that line is in the past, we'll do some checks. And again, the checks are not very fancy. There's no need for libraries or just vanilla JavaScript. You just check the words, if they're a match, if they're no match. Obviously, this is quite trimmed. And after looping for us save transcriptions, we just need to check, do that. And it's quite a lot of ifs and elses. Every once in a while, like a fancy includes turns up. But it is just adding and removing CSS classes. Speaking of which, we have a similar trick to like Dave showed. The animation actually happens by adding the data into the after on CSS, and then the yellow animation is basically the run text animation, and it just does that for you, which is great. I didn't have to think too much about that. So what's the verdict? Well, there's potential. I'm optimistic. There's potential. It wasn't perfect. It was a fun experiment. But technically, we're not fully there yet. The reality is that if you pay for the many startups that offer the service, they'll provide you better things, including grammar, punctuation, and they'll be able to probably include different languages in the middle of a sentence, which the current web speech API doesn't. And I'm not the first person to play with this API. There are so many fun demos and projects built on top of this. So Tony Edwards did a fantastic talk called Beats, Rhymes, and Unit Tests. And in his talk, he wanted to see if the web speech API could help him jot down the rhymes he comes up with. So similar to me, Tony noted that it wasn't perfect, but it was a very, very fun experiment. And if you want to learn more, Stephanie Eccles built a fun Santa chat for the 12 Days of Web Dev Challenge. And Wesbos also has a chapter on the Web Speech API on his free JavaScript course. And there's plenty of other projects using this API. During the pandemic, the web captioner became a tool for many people and has now been sunset, but the code is all available in GitHub. And one of the most fun things it has, it includes a microphone volume and a bunch of things like that. It's really, really an interesting thing to go and learn a lot from it. And there's also polyfills available, implementations with WebRTC, and as mentioned before, just so many like private companies that offer this service to you. Voice interfaces aren't going anywhere. If you want to learn more to design for them, this is a great book, Voice Content and Usability by Preston So. It gives you so many examples of how people use voice interface to navigate. We're all familiar with devices we may have at home or in places, but trying to focus more on the web. And it's a great, great tool to have. So what's next? So it does feel quite a bit underwhelming to be like, oh, okay, I don't know. The reality is I've checked and this API seems a bit stagnant, but also with the browsers not agreeing with how to go on it. It's a shame. However, it's not the end of the world. Things can still change and improve and grow. And maybe in a couple of years, things will be different. In the end of the day, even those people who charge you money for this type of services, it relies on their data to be incredibly good as well. So anyone can crop up and be like, my data is better than yours. So it's not like something very, very strict. But it can be events like these where these browser APIs can grow and change and get people to talk about them. Like I said, voice interfaces aren't going anywhere, and I will share and support a call to action to the speech recognition sibling, the speech synthesis. So I really think you should look up Leonie Watson's amazing talk, Designing Voice Interfaces, where a call to action is presented to support CSS speech. So have a look. I won't spoil this for you. But if we ever think that just because something has not been worked on for many years, it's not dead. There's still needs for it, and there's people who are looking to improve it. And there's also projects like the Common Voice from Mozilla, where you can donate your voice, and most important for me, your accent, and also volunteer your time to do some quality control. Right. Okay, cool, whatever. How is this useful for my everyday job? To be honest, are you going to be using the Web Speech API at work? Probably not. And even for accessibility, the chances are you'll be asked to implement one of those awful, inaccessible toolbars instead. So what do I do with this? Let's have a look at what we actually did. We had quite a few working demos. We experimented with the browser API, the Web Speech API, the HTML media element. I ended up writing lots of JavaScript, which, to be fair, it was a lot more than I do on my daily job. I ended up having content for a talk, ended up poking around CSS animations and it had a glow, but it didn't come through in the screen, unfortunately. And I spent a lot of time reading and understanding API specifications, reading discussions between browsers, and just like trying to read and absorb as much information as I could from incredibly intelligent people. And with this, I mean, you can learn by building useless things. Is my karaoke, specifically the Erasmus karaoke, useful? We'll see. I only recently gave myself permission to build unproductive things. They are not for my daily job. In the past, I would feel very guilty if I didn't do productive things after work. And my message from this is that side projects don't need to be monetized in order to be valid. They don't need to become NPM packages or the next unicorn startup or open source projects. And if you ever think your idea isn't worth it, just ignore that thought. Like Sophie said, boring is fine. I didn't use a fantastic library in the background of this, just vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Just do what works and what makes you happy. Create your own safe space, share with friends. And if you're not ready to share with the world, just do things for yourself. You don't have to share things in order to be valid in our industry. So I had some time to burn, and I have another demo. But before that, let's go back to the most important topic of them all, my besties. So this is a Slack screenshot from my work. It has increased by 1 since. I've been at my job for like, 5, 6 years? I mentioned Erasmus 162 times, actually 63. And on average, that's really close to 33 times a year. And I'm not a stan, but I'm here on stage talking about them. They're so lovely. I'm joking. So I couldn't run this demo in the background because I was doing the other demos. But what if I told you that the things I've been saying, I've been including song titles, which are not copyrighted. Song lyrics are copyrighted, and you can't mention them without permission. But you can actually include song titles. So I've been doing this talk, sneaking in some song titles from my favorite album, Dead Letters, for you all. So let me scroll to the bottom. Yeah, some of them are really hard to. I was just like, oh well, I'll just. Yeah. It's all right. I suppose I'll see you all at the next Erasmus tour. And thank you so much.